On a night when power mocked poverty under blinding stage lights, no one believed a quiet janitor could change the fate of a room full of kings and queens. Yet kindness often arrives disguised as weakness, and this is where that miracle began. The Ryman Auditorium shimmered with prestige, every velvet seat occupied by celebrities, critics, and wealthy patrons who believed art belonged only to the elite. While millions watched live online as Serena Vale, the world-famous soprano, stood center stage in a gown worth more than most people's yearly income, she smiled, soaking in applause, then tilted her head with a playful cruelty and said, "Tonight I feel generous. I want to give someone unexpected a chance," her eyes drifting toward the side aisle where a thin man in a gray uniform paused mid-mop. "You," she said sharply, pointing. "The janitor. Come here." Laughter rippled through the hall like a cruel wave. The man swallowed hard. His name was Daniel Cross, a widowed father who worked nights cleaning theaters, because daytime jobs wouldn't let him stay home with his sick daughter. "Ma'am, please," he said quietly. "I'm just here to work." Serena laughed into the microphone. "Exactly. Let's see what real work sounds like." Security nudged Daniel forward as applause mixed with mocking whistles. He climbed the steps, feeling every eye burn into him. Serena leaned down, her voice dripping with condescension. "Sing one note. A high C. Professionals fail at it. Go on. Entertain us." Daniel's hands trembled as he held the microphone. "I don't sing on stages," he said softly. "I sing at hospital beds." Someone scoffed. Someone else rolled their eyes. Serena waved her hand. "Spare us the charity speech. Sing or leave." Daniel closed his eyes. In his mind, he saw Lily, 6 years old, pale and brave, hooked to machines, smiling whenever he sang her old lullabies. He breathed in, not to impress, not to fight, but simply to survive. When his voice emerged, it was gentle, untrained, yet achingly honest, floating through the hall like a confession. The orchestra fell silent. The note climbed higher, steadier, purer, and when Daniel reached the high C, it didn't shatter, it soared, filling the Ryman with a warmth that wrapped around every listener. Phones lowered. Smiles vanished. Serena's face froze. Daniel held the note with control no one expected, then released it softly as if laying a child to sleep. For one heartbeat, the room was dead silent. Then the applause erupted, raw and thunderous. People stood. Someone shouted, "Again!" Another yelled, "You tried to humiliate him!" Serena staggered back, stunned. "Cut the feed!" she hissed, but it was too late. The internet had already caught fire. Daniel tried to step away. "Thank you for listening," he said humbly, offering the mic back. Serena snapped. "Get him off my stage," but security hesitated as boos now drowned her out. Daniel was escorted through a side exit, heart racing, unaware that this miracle. Headlines twisted the truth. Articles claimed Daniel was a paid actor, a planted stunt to embarrass Serena. Influencers mocked his background. Lawyers delivered a $10 million lawsuit accusing him of fraud and sabotage. His phone buzzed non-stop with threats. "We know where your daughter is," one message read. Daniel sat beside Lily's hospital bed, holding her small hand, terror clawing at his chest. "Daddy sang," she whispered weakly, smiling. Tears rolled down his face as he replied, "Yes, baby, just for you." An email arrived offering him enough money to save Lily's life if he signed a statement admitting the performance was fake. Daniel stared at the screen, the weight of the world pressing down on a man who only wanted to sing kindness into a cruel world. And in that quiet hospital room, the true battle began, not for fame or revenge, but for truth, dignity, and a child's fragile breath. Morning did not bring relief, it brought war. Because by sunrise, Daniel Cross was no longer a janitor who sang one note. He was a headline, a target, and a liability. And as he sat in the hard plastic chair outside Lily's hospital room, scrolling through his phone with shaking hands, he saw his face everywhere under words like fraud, plant attention seeker, and the cruelest one of all, poor man fakes talent for fame. "Daddy, why are you sad?" Lily asked softly, her voice thin like glass. And Daniel forced a smile, saying, "Just tired, sweetheart," while his chest felt like it was caving in. The first call came from a lawyer he couldn't afford. "Mr. Cross," the voice said coldly. "You've been served. Ms. Serena?" Vale is suing you for $10 million for reputational damage, emotional distress, and staged performance deception. Daniel whispered, I didn't plan anything, but the line was already dead. By noon, paparazzi camped outside the hospital. Nurses whispered. A doctor gently suggested, it might be better if you keep a low profile, and Daniel nodded. Ashamed of attention he never wanted. Online, Serena released a video, eyes glossy, voice trembling just enough to feel rehearsed. I was humiliated, she said. That man was clearly coached, and I refused to let lies destroy my life's work. Millions believed her. Sponsors dropped him from a fundraiser he was never invited to. Donations meant for Lily vanished after trolls reported his accounts. That night, Daniel received a message from an unknown number. Sign the statement. Take the money. Save your daughter. His hands went numb. A second message followed. We know her room number. He rushed to Lily, panic choking him, but she slept peacefully, unaware that her life had become leverage. God, Daniel, whispered in the hallway. I only sang. The next day, a woman approached him outside the hospital cafeteria. Mid-40s, kind eyes, worn coat. My name is Evelyn Brooks, she said. I was in the audience. Daniel stiffened. If you're here to tell me I'm a liar, I'm here to tell you I believe you, she interrupted gently. She explained she was a retired choir director. What you did can't be faked, she said. I've trained voices for 40 years. Yours came from love. Daniel's eyes filled. Love doesn't pay lawyers, he said bitterly. Evelyn nodded. But kindness brings witnesses, she replied. She introduced him to others who had been there, an usher, a violinist, a sound engineer, all willing to testify that nothing was staged. Hope flickered, fragile but alive. Then the offer arrived in person. Two men in suits met Daniel in a quiet cafe. $10 million, one said calmly, sliding papers across the table. You admit it was planned, you disappear. Your daughter gets the best care money can buy. Daniel stared at the contract. And if I don't? The man smiled thinly. Courts are slow. Children are not. Daniel's voice broke. You're asking me to lie. We're asking you to be a father, the other replied. That night, Daniel sat beside Lily as machines hummed. Daddy, she whispered, did I do something bad? He shook his head fiercely. No, baby, never. Then why do you look scared? She asked. Daniel swallowed hard. Because sometimes telling the truth hurts before it heals. She squeezed his finger weakly. When you sing, she said, it makes me brave. The words shattered him. In the days that followed, the pressure intensified. Fake videos surfaced. Old photos were twisted. Commentators laughed. Talent doesn't come from mops, one. Joked on TV. Daniel almost signed the papers twice. Each time he remembered Lily's voice. Then something unexpected happened. A clip surfaced from a cell phone angle never seen before, showing Serena whispering, let's hear what poverty sounds like, before handing him the mic. It spread fast. Public opinion cracked. A hashtag trended, let him sing. Serena's team called it edited lies, but doubt had entered the room. In court, during the first hearing, Serena sat polished and powerful, Daniel in a borrowed suit that didn't quite fit. Her lawyer sneered. You expect us to believe a janitor outsang a global icon by accident? Daniel stood when asked to speak. His voice shook, but it held. I didn't outsing anyone, he said quietly. I just sang for my daughter, murmurs rippled. The judge leaned forward. Outside, Evelyn and dozens of strangers stood holding signs that read, Kindness is not a crime. That night, Daniel returned to the hospital to find Lily struggling to breathe. Doctors rushed in. As alarms sounded, Daniel leaned close and sang softly, tears falling onto her blanket. Nurses paused. A doctor whispered, She's stabilizing. Daniel realized then that no amount of money could replace what truth and love were. Already giving his child, and as the storm closed in tighter, he made his choice, not knowing if it would save him, but knowing it was the only thing that could save his soul. The night Lily nearly slipped away, Daniel did not sleep. Because fear has a sound and it echoes louder in hospital hallways after midnight. And as dawn crept through the blinds, he sat with his forehead pressed to the glass, whispering songs his wife once loved, songs he hadn't dared sing since she died, until a nurse gently said, "She's holding on," and those words felt heavier than any applause he had ever heard. Outside the hospital, the world kept shouting. News vans multiplied. Commentators argued whether truth mattered more than legacy. Serena Vale vanished from public view, but her influence did not. Because anonymous blogs accused Daniel of exploiting his daughter's illness for sympathy. "They're monsters," Evelyn said angrily, sitting beside him with a cup of burnt coffee. But Daniel only shook his head. "They're scared," he replied softly. "People with power always are." The second court date arrived with rain, beating against stone steps. Inside, witnesses spoke. The sound engineer testified. There was no enhancement, no auto-tune, nothing, the violinist said. "I've played with Serena for years. I've never heard humility from her. But I heard it from him." Each statement chipped away at the lie. Then Serena took the stand. Perfect hair, steady smile. "I felt threatened," she said, voice quivering on cue. "That man intended to humiliate me." Daniel watched, heart pounding, remembering her words, her laugh. When it was his turn to cross-examine, he surprised everyone by speaking directly to her. "Why did you choose me?" he asked quietly. Serena blinked. "You were nearby." "No," Daniel said gently. "You chose me because you thought I was safe to break." A hush fell. Serena's jaw tightened. That night, Daniel returned to Lily, who smiled faintly. "Daddy," she whispered, "are you famous now?" He laughed sadly. "No, baby." "Just loud." She giggled, then coughed. Doctors warned him her treatment funds were running out. The offer returned, higher now, sweeter, more desperate. "Last chance," the message read. "Lie, and she lives." Daniel collapsed into a chair, fists pressed to his eyes. "I can't watch her die," he sobbed to Evelyn. She held his shoulders. "Kindness doesn't abandon you," she said, "even when it tests you." That evening, a surprise visitor arrived. A young man, nervous, carrying a laptop. "I worked on Serena's social media." "Team," he said, "I can't do this anymore." He showed Daniel drafts of posts, planned before the concert. Jokes about making a janitor squeal. Proof of intent. "Why help me?" Daniel asked. The man swallowed. "My mother cleaned offices until cancer took her." "You sounded like her prayers. The evidence went viral before. Serena's lawyers could stop it." Sponsors paused. Fans questioned. Serena released a furious statement calling it betrayal. Then came the call Daniel feared most. "This is child services," a voice said. "We've received reports of neglect." Daniel's world tilted. They arrived the next morning. Lily cried as strangers examined her. Daniel's knees buckled. "Please," he begged. "She's all I have." One social worker lingered, eyes soft. "My dad used to sing to me when I was sick," she whispered. "We'll make sure she's safe." That night, Daniel sang again. Not loudly, not perfectly, but with everything he had left. Staff gathered outside the room, some crying. A video leaked of him singing to Lily, not for fame, not for pity. The internet shifted. Messages poured in. "We believe you." Donations appeared from strangers, small but many. Enough for one more treatment. Serena's team panicked. They filed emergency motions. The judge denied them. In a private moment, Serena confronted Daniel in a courthouse hallway. "You could have taken the money," she snapped. "You could have saved her." Daniel met her eyes. "I am saving her," he said, "by showing her who her father is." Serena laughed bitterly. "Kindness won't protect you," Daniel replied softly. "It already has." That night, Lily's breathing eased for the first time in weeks. The doctor smiled. "She's responding." Daniel collapsed beside her bed, sobbing with relief, knowing the fight was not over. But for the first time, hope was louder than fear, and kindness, fragile and stubborn, was refusing to let go. The final hearing arrived quietly, without rain or cameras crowding the courthouse steps, as if the world itself was holding its breath, because sometimes the most important endings do not announce themselves loudly. And Daniel Cross walked inside carrying nothing but a worn, folder of truth and the weight of every night he had sung fear away from his daughter. Lily was too weak to attend, but before he left, she touched his cheek and whispered, "Sing later, Daddy!" And he nodded, promising, "Always." Inside the courtroom, Serena Vale sat rigid, her confidence cracked but not gone. Surrounded by lawyers who now avoided her eyes, while behind Daniel, the benches were filled with ordinary people, nurses, janitors, musicians, strangers who had donated $5, $10, kindness in its smallest but strongest form. The judge listened as final evidence was presented, including the leaked messages, the planned humiliation, the threats, and when the young former social media employee testified, voice shaking, "We were told to crush him if he didn't cooperate," something shifted permanently. Serena stood abruptly. "This is a witch hunt," she snapped. "I built my career with discipline and talent." The judge looked at her calmly. "And you tried to destroy another human being for sport," he replied. Daniel was asked to speak one last time. He stood slowly, hands steady now. "I never wanted fame," he said. "I wanted my daughter to feel safe when she closed her eyes. I sang because love taught me how." The courtroom was silent. The verdict came swiftly. The lawsuit was dismissed. Serena was found liable for defamation, coercion, and emotional damages. The fine was staggering. But more devastating was the public ruling. Her actions were deliberate, cruel, and abusive. Serena's face went pale. Outside reporters swarmed. But Daniel walked past them, phone already ringing with news from the hospital. "She's stable," the doctor said. "The treatment is working." Daniel dropped to his knees on the courthouse steps and cried openly, not from victory but from release. Days later, a benefit concert was announced. Not in a grand hall, but in the hospital courtyard. Musicians volunteered. Nurses brought chairs. Daniel refused the spotlight, but Lily insisted. Wrapped in a blanket, she sat near the front as Daniel sang, his voice no longer trembling, carrying not perfection, but peace. Serena's career unraveled quickly after that. Sponsors left. Apologies rang hollow. She released a statement about reflection and growth. But the world had learned something it would not forget. Talent without kindness echoes empty. Daniel was offered recording deals, interviews, money, but he declined most of them. He took a modest grant to fund Lily's continued care and returned to cleaning floors at night. Because humility had become his armor. One afternoon, Lily asked, "Daddy, why didn't you become famous?" Daniel smiled and said, "Because I already have the most important audience." She laughed. Stronger now, color slowly returning to her cheeks. Months later, Daniel was invited back to the Ryman, not to perform, but to speak. He stood on the same stage where he had once been mocked and said simply, "If you see someone with less power than you, protect them. One kind moment can undo a lifetime of fear." The crowd stood, not cheering wildly, but quietly, reverently. And now, as this story comes to an end, remember why it mattered. Stories like Daniel's are not about voices that hit impossible notes, but about hearts that refuse to break under cruelty. If this story touched you, if it reminded you that kindness still wins even when the world feels loud and unfair, then please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to our channel Kindness True Stories. Because every follow helps us keep telling real, emotional stories where compassion defeats power, truth protects the vulnerable, and humanity is never silent.